How would you like over 50 pages of player content dedicated to the Artificer class? Would you like to experience the arcane punk setting behind the webcomic D20 Monkey? How about over 120 monsters tailored for 7 different types of dungeons? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, we've got books that will cover that for you and much more in the latest episode of D&D New Releases. So let's get started. Hi, it's Splinterverse. Welcome to another episode of D&D New Releases, where we offer first impressions of new third-party products for Dungeons & Dragons. We cover a selection of titles from Dungeon Masters Guild and DriveThruRPG each week. The titles are presented in alphabetical order, and all of them are linked in the video description. Purchasing the books using those links helps the channel, but you can also support us by purchasing one of our best-selling books. Our newest release, Dragonlance Companion, offers 180 pages for players and DMs to bring the magical world of Krynn to life. And like many of our books, it's available in hardcover and digital format. Our Swarms of the Multiverse offers over 70 brand new creatures, including their associated swarms, instructions on how to make your own balanced swarms, and lots of bonus materials such as 4 new demiplanes. Our Feywild Companion offers 150 pages of Feywild fun for players and DMs alike. Also, our book, Fizban's Vault of Draconic Secrets, contains over 50 pages of dragon-themed player options, including a subclass for each class and much more. We've got lineages suitable for any setting, as well as optional lineage rules in our Van Richten's Librum of Lineages. With our Potions Unlocked book, we have over 100 pages of material to take potions to the next level in your game. Please support the channel by purchasing our books using the links in the video description. First up, we have The Artificer's Guide to Magic Items, which is by author Matt Carson. It's $4.99 for the PDF, or you can get a hardcover premium color book for $17.99, or both the PDF and that hardcover for that same price. It's a best copper seller already, and it's 56 pages, and it says it's a 5th edition game supplement available for both players and dungeon masters. It's an expansion and fusion of the crafting systems found in the Dungeon Master's Guide and Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It takes a layered approach to item creation from mundane all the way through to artifact level. So you've got expanded item creation rules. You can improve the value of gems and art objects, add new abilities to existing magic items, hire help in crafting, explore special crafting environments, discover ways to integrate the Artificer class abilities into item creation, 9 new spells, 15 optional rules, 22 new magic items, and worksheets to fill it all out, plus the fun artwork that is in here. And so this is obviously a labor of love. The author clearly enjoys Artificer and has poured a lot of passion into this. So I'm so happy this is out there for Artificer fans, and even those that are new to it, maybe that want to get more into it. So you can see it goes into some sort of background, how to integrate artificers into your campaign, thinking of them as crafters or merchants or other angles to consider. You got base item construction, special conditions, item enchantment. So that's something that artificers can get up to. They can make scrolls and potions. There's new item research. It goes into sentient magic items and even artifacts, as well as those spells and magic items. So quite a lot going on. And again, I'm just so happy to see that all of this is devoted to artificers. And I encourage you to read this intro. It's really good, and it explains why the author felt the need to expand upon what's available for artificers. It makes sense that an artificer would be the best at magic item creation, or even just general item creation, because that's sort of rolled into their whole identity. I mean, you think about, a cleric being more divine and doing divine things, whereas an artificer is tinkering and doing stuff like that, right? So you've got to have a connection to item creation with this class. At least you should consider it. You don't have to have it, but I think it makes sense. And it also helps get around some of those early release, huge long time frames to make things that nobody in their right mind would embark upon, right? So those got reduced with Xanathars, but this helps make it even more useful. So looking at this, you can even have a cooperative effort. Any creation of magic items must be at its heart a partnership between the player creating the item and the DM, of course. But maybe you can collaborate with others in here to make some different items, which would be helpful. But I love that it goes through, you know, artificers in the game, what's their place there, how are they as crafters or as adventurers, all of that stuff. And it goes into some definitions. It talks about a work week. And then what's really cool is it thinks about the specialties, basically the Artificer subclass, and how those might play a role in item creation, in terms of, if you're an armorer, it would make sense that compared to a battlesmith, you would be better at making armor or shields, right? And maybe the battlesmith is better at making melee weapons, right? And so there's some calculations. There's a lot of math in here that you're going to have to do, but don't be intimidated by that. There's worksheets to help you. But there's like modifiers, like you use this value if it connects to your subclass, and if it doesn't, then here's the value, right? So it's not too crazy. But I like this section down here about building the base item. That was really interesting. And so I wanted to just read the 4 instance, because a lot of this I think is too heavy to read on the show today, but I want you to look at it on your own. It'll make more sense if you get to read the whole page rather than me just reading a little bit. But this part, I think, sums it up and will help hopefully get you very interested in this book, because again, I think it's great that it's here. It says, for instance, an item that costs 25 gold pieces, such as a basic scimitar, would require only 28 hours for an artificer to create, or 14 hours for a battlesmith. Thus, in the same time it would take a non-artificer to forge a single scimitar, which would be 1 full work week, which is basically 7 8-hour periods, a non-specialist artificer could forge 2 in that 7 days of 8 hours, whereas a battlesmith could do 4, right? And so it's about accelerating some of those established timelines, and that makes perfect sense. Because wouldn't you be good at that if you're an artificer, right? And there's all these different things, you know, basic plus 0 hours, crude plus 10 hours. So there's some crunch, but I don't think it's crazy. I mean, it's basically addition. So if you can do addition, you can do this. And it's got beautiful artwork, so easy to read, well laid out. I didn't see any typos. I mean, this, I think, is a true gift for anyone who loves artificers, whether they want to play as them or they want to have them as NPCs. So I really think you got to check it out. And what's really awesome about it is it's available as a hardcover too, and that's rare in the DM's Guild. So you want to take advantage of that as well. So look for it in the video description links. It's under the Artificer's Guide to Magic Items, and give it a click. Next, we have Ezmeralda's Guide to Ravenloft with this beautiful cover. I love this. We see Ezmeralda sort of staring down Castle Ravenloft. Such beautiful artwork. And it's $24.99 for the PDF. Or you can spend $57.99 to get a premium color hardcover, or $41.99 if you want standard color hardcover. Or you can, for those same prices, you can get the hardcover and the PDF, which I always recommend doing. You may say, oh, I don't want the PDF, I just want the hardcover. Do it. Get both. That way you have both. If the text gets updated, the hardcover is likely not to get updated, so then you have both. And just because you prefer print today doesn't mean you'll prefer digital later, or vice versa. So whenever you can buy it for the same price, and I absolutely love it when creators provide the bundle at the same price as that hardcover, because it just makes sense, especially in this age of updating the digital version. It's just truly possible to make sure that people have those updates that are critical, because having published books myself through the system, it takes a long time to get your hardcover edited and updated, and there's a big cost associated with it. So you're not gonna do a new print every time you make a typo fix. Okay, so getting that bundle is really, really good. But this book is a best silver seller, and again, it's got that beautiful cover. But let's find out more about it. It says it serves as an expansion to Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, including new player options and domains of dread. Each of these domains provides you with detailed lore, backgrounds, locations, NPCs, adventure hooks, and a map, as well as detailed information on their Dark Lords, including the stat block. So that was one of the big complaints about the book, when the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft book, when it came out, was that, you know, you have all this information on Dark Lords but no stat blocks, which makes it really hard to to use them right out of the gate. You got to do some prep and create that stat block. So they're basically addressing that head on here and saying, in this book, we give you new domains with Dark Lords and their stat blocks. So that's great. I told you it's 170 pages, which is great. So you get those 12 domains of dread, 30 new monsters, 4 new special lineages such as the lichen and shade, 6 new subclass options, 10 full color maps. So really, really cool. So the domains are listed here. So if you want to find out about those, so there's a Miriam. It says, once a domain of delight of the Feywild, Miriam was plunged into Ravenloft by the evils of a treasonous Fey prince and his desire to become a true king. You've got Winter Hall, a boarding school where children and young people are brutally pitted against one another in the vain hopes of being freed. You got Malbor, the first 𝙁𝙘𝙢 tree, origin of all blighted creatures, is the eternally rotting prison of 𝙁𝙘𝙢 of Nightfang's Spire. I mean, these all sound interesting and different, and they are not identical to ones that were already published by Wizards, right? So you're going to have such a variety. And Ravenloft is shifty. It moves around. You can walk through fog and find yourself there, right? So you can configure the landscape of Ravenloft however you want and have these domains be side by side, or have distance between them, or put one from this book next to one from Van Richten's Guide. However you want to do it. It's your world to plot where these domains are going to live. I think if I was going to do something with Ravenloft, I'd probably have like a hex map, and I would place all of the domains however I wanted them on there. And then, people could potentially go from a Miriam to Winter Hall, or some of the published ones, and just kind of have it set up that way. But just what I would do. You can do it however you want. That's the beauty of this game. So looking inside, you get to see 8 pages of the 170. And so most of the ones in here are going to be on those lineages. And lineages are just really, really cool. You'll hear people, unfortunately, use the term lineage to replace the word race because it has challenges associated with it. And hopefully the upcoming revamp of 5th edition is going to use a different term. But I don't like when people use lineage for it. I think they should use heritage or some other term, because there is already a distinct thing called lineages when you look at 5th edition. So you have race, and then Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft introduced lineages, right? And so I'm so happy to see that the creators of this book respected that and made the lineages here actual lineages. And if you want a quick primer on what a lineage is versus a race, a lineage, in my opinion, even though it isn't particularly stated by Wizards, is something that sort of is thrust upon an existing being. They're not necessarily born that way, other than maybe the Hexblood in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft technically could be born that way, but still it was thrust on them because a hag got involved with their parents in some way, right? And so that's, to me, the difference between a race and a lineage. So in this case, they've got some cool ones like lichen, which would be, lycanthropy. coming into the life of a character. But the one I want to read for the purposes of this video is Arcanoblood, because it sounds really interesting, and I could see many situations, even outside of Ravenloft, where you could have an Arcanoblood, because they're basically imbued with the very essence of magic. Arcanobloods are beings with innate sorcerous powers who, despite their empowered nature, must wage a constant war against the magic within. Instead of blood, the veins of an Arcanoblood course with a glowing gel-like substance that contains the vital magics that sustain them. This glow emanates through their skin, giving them an eerie appearance. The heart of an Arcanoblood is a strange organ. While it does pump the Arcanoblood's false blood around their bodies, it also pulls unwanted magic from them and expels it into some unknown extra-dimensional space. Additionally, when an Arcanoblood is wounded, their false blood can be spilled. However, soon after leaving their bodies, it evaporates, vanishing back into the weave. So you can, those two details you can play with. You could have over time this stuff happening, and then you discover the extra dimensional space where this unwanted magic goes. Maybe you could also play with the idea that their blood is spilled and somebody's trying to track them, and now they can't find it because it's evaporated. So there's some fun opportunities with those details that the authors have added, which I really like. And then it says, while many Arcanobloods are born with the magic within them, others are created by experimentation. So again, addressing the lineage. Just because they're born with it doesn't mean that something wasn't thrust into the parents and the conception time frame, right? And so you can still have a lineage where you're born, but there is some action. It's not like a race where every member of the race is born with this, right? Although you could turn it into a race if you wanted to. And so they give you this table of D6 origins, possible origins. So it says you are a child of an incredibly powerful spellcaster or extraplanar being. The magic they channel and create has seeped into your very essence. So that could make sense, right? Either as a child you were playing in the lab and just kind of, where they're experimenting with magic and you absorbed it all, or you could be, maybe while the mother was pregnant, she was around so much magic that it sort of seeped in, or even just into their genes, and basically it caused you to have that kind of magic blood, which is cool. And it talks about how you could be connected to the different domains. It gives you 3 options here, which is awesome. Ties right into the focus of the book, which is Ravenloft. It says you're humanoid, you're medium or small, base walking feet 30 feet, dark vision out to 60 feet. You've got keen hearing and smell. And then you get the ancestral legacy, where you get, if you replace a race with this, you get to keep one of the following elements. So your skill proficiencies, and if you don't keep those, you can pick new ones. You have proficiency in Arcana, and then you have Arcanoblood magic. You can choose a cantrip from the sorcerer spell list. You can cast that cantrip with this trait. Starting at 3rd level, choose a 1st level spell from the sorcerer spell list, and then at 5th level, you choose a 2nd level spell. And then once you cast those with the trait, you can't cast it again until you finish a long rest. But if you have a spell slot, you can use those, of course, as well. You can cast Detect Magic at will. And then you have limited magic resistance. Whenever you make a saving throw against a spell or other magical effect, you can choose to gain advantage on the roll. You can use this trait a number of times equal to proficiency bonus, regaining all expended uses whenever you complete a long rest. So that makes sense that you would be able to detect magic at will, that you have advantage against spells, that you have proficiency in Arcana. I mean, this all ties into this magic theme, right? Magic in your blood. You sort of live, eat, sleep, breathe magic in a way. So fun, and it fits with Ravenloft. And they give you, examples like with Darkon. Darkon is filled with strange magic. Some of this magic may have been forced upon you by one of its warring factions, or perhaps the Shroud itself. See, so you can tie in why you would be an Arcanoblood. Again, I think lineages are better than races because they really weave into the backstory. When you're just told you're an elf, it's like, yeah, you can tie that into your backstory in a clan or a family or a tribe or whatever you want to come from. but you're one of several. And when you're a lineage, you can be just the one, maybe the only one anybody's ever encountered, or maybe one of very few. But whatever you are, because it's been thrust upon you, you have so much to tell, so much of a story, so much to reveal as things go forward. So again, we're just getting to look at these here. They have Shade in here as one, which is really, really cool. It says, having lost or outright sold a piece of their soul to the Shadowfell, shades are beings imbued with shadow stuff. So that's another option. You've got the Lycan, which would be someone be torn between man and beast. So I love it. And we've just looked at the lineages here. They've got subclass options like the Stitcher for the Artificer, the Accursed for the Ranger, the Dread Knight for the Fighter, and a bunch of domains and monsters and stuff like that. So I hope you check it out. It's under Ezmeralda's Guide to Ravenloft in the links below. Give it a click. And next we have Karthun, Lands of Conflict by Brian Patterson and Tracy Barnett and D20 Monkey. It's $17.99 for 274 pages. And it says Karthun, Lands of Conflict is an arcane punk, high magic, high fantasy campaign setting created and brought to life by Brian Patterson in the pages of the 10 years running ttrpg webcomic series D20 Monkey. In the series, Karthun was created and introduced by the series GM Sam, but in reality, Karthun is the homebrew campaign setting Brian Patterson has been working on since he was a teenager, drawing inspiration from classic D&D settings, novels, and horror. So, love that. It says, it was once a land of peace and prosperity, then the release of the world fire and the breaking of the plains ushered in the age of conflict. Now rulers wage war against the legions of the three demon kings, ravenous undead horrors, and each other. Karthun needs heroes to stand against the darkness. But to be a hero in Karthun is to be a legend, for even the gods can perish here. All that awaits the fallen is the cold, eternal embrace of the mother of the dead. So, this is a labor of love. This has been a long time coming for these creators. They've got a history with this. It's appeared in the comics, and it's been growing. I was reading a little bit of the sort of the behind the scenes earlier, and the author was saying that he played D&D and was taking notes and eventually sort of created his own setting, and he had all this history for the gods and everything. And so now this is the culmination of all of that. There's been peaks of it in the webcomic, and now here it is. So it says, the book includes plenty of international strife and potential controversy to fuel a political intrigue plot, an extensive spy network designed to support campaign espionage, and warring nations to build epic battle campaigns. Smaller locations and story seeds to support one-shots or shorter campaigns. A sample bestiary, including new creatures like the Worldfire Hound and the Snipe Snatcher. A variety of potential player character races and classes, including a new race, the 𝙭. Karthun technologies to bring a new twist to the standard fantasy campaign, and an adventure template to help you build your campaigns, as well as a starter adventure called the Black Cabinet. So you can see the Karthun, which is the surviving continent, and then the shadow version of it, which is cool. This is just really beautifully illustrated, connecting to that webcomic. And just such a labor of love. I think this is going to be such a fun one. I should mention it's system neutral, so you can use it with 5th edition, 1st edition, whatever. It's up to you. This is more like the lore and the concepts versus the actual numbers that you would need. But look at this beautiful, I'm going to zoom out so you can see the full map all at once. It's a beautiful depiction of the continent, the surviving continent, because there were 3, and then the world fire came along, and basically they lost 2 of them, and there's refugees from the other 2 continents that are sort of forced into this continent. So a lot going on, which is what you want, because then you can pick and choose what you're going to highlight, what you're going to focus on as a DM. It says 𝙤𝙤𝙘, or the last continent, as it's commonly referred to, is all that remains of Karthun. It was once one of 3 continents until the arrival of the Worldfire and the armies of the 3 demon kings resulted in the destruction of the other 2. So really, really cool. It says geographically, 𝙤𝙤𝙘 represents a wide variety of climates and environments, ranging from rolling plains and Andern to the craggy canyon wastes of 𝙤𝙤 to the dense forests of 𝘼𝙤. However, 2 regions in particular stand out as examples of Karthun's contrasting landscapes and as reminders of the once great empires lost to war and sacrifice. So to the far north, a frozen expanse of half-buried giant ruins serve as grim reminders of the former giant empire within a region known as the Endless. Countless expeditions travel to the Endless in search of what lies beyond the dread peaks, but few return, and none have scaled the infamous mountain range. If the gods have secrets and Karthun holds mysteries, what lies beyond the Endless is one of the deepest. So you can play with that, right? You can build up that. You can talk about the legends of that. You can even decide what happens if you scale that mountain range. But to the far south, the rocky war-scarred lands, now known as Craghorn, were once held by the Dreadwing Council, 𝙤𝙤𝙘's most powerful draconic empire. The dragons of Karthun wielded great power from their fortress within Eternity Peak, but a deific war between corrupted dragons, the World Wardens, and the gods brought an end to the dragons and their followers. In the years that passed, the barren lands become home to the savage clans. So very, very cool stuff. Quite a contrast, right? You've got that endless area with the giants, and you've got the southern area with this Dreadwing Council and the draconic feel to it. So, and we're just scratching the surface. There's so much, this whole map to explore, all the detail in here. Lots and lots of options, and here is that page I was telling you about where you're getting Brian's history with D&D, really, and how this whole campaign setting came to be. And I love this cool little post-it note version because DMs, of course, will have lots of notes a lot of times, like that, kind of keeping track of everything, because it's a living document, a campaign. A map like this becomes a living document because the actions of players influence things, right? So having something like this is really, really cool, and I like that it's system neutral because it's up to you. You can use your own, existing stat blocks, reskin them for 5th edition, or you can, use it with a totally different system, Dungeon World or one of the other systems out there, and just plug it in. Or you can just take a character out of here or a region out of here. Like we talked about the Endless area. You could take that and put it into your own homebrew. I'm sure Brian wouldn't mind if you do the same thing he did with other, existing settings as he was growing up, right? You just kind of make it work for you, what works for your table. But I love all the artwork and the passion that's gone into this. And, 274 pages, that's a lot of information. And you should probably check out that webcomic as well. Anyway, I hope you look for it. It's in the video description links. It's under Karthun, Lands of Conflict. Give it a click. Next, we have Monsters of the Dungeon, Brave the Darkness from Cobwood Publishing. It is $14.95 for the PDF, or you can get a softcover premium color for $29.95 or hardcover premium color for $35.95, and just a little bit more for those hardcover soft covers with the PDF thrown in. This is for 5th edition. It's 150 pages, but it also has conversion tables for Pathfinder 1, 2, Old School Essentials, Dungeon Crawl Classics. I mean, you can't beat that. So you get conversion to 4 other versions of Dungeons and Dragons, basically. Yes, they're their own things, but they're essentially built off of Dungeons and Dragons, right? So basically 5 editions you get with this book. So that's a lot of value for your money. Over 120 new monsters plus resources to run a dungeon campaign. They're organized, these 120 monsters are organized into 7 unique dungeon chapters. So you have Arcane, Castle, Manor, Thieves Guild, Tomb, Wilderness, and Mountain. And this is part of a series. They've done a bunch of monsters just general monster books. And so they have had quite a bit of success at Cobwood with this approach. And it's great because You can never have enough monsters. And the concept of this one, where they're organizing it by the dungeon type, is pretty cool. So if you have a castle dungeon or a manor dungeon or a thieves guild dungeon, you can look through here and say which of these creatures fits the challenge rating that goes with my party, and then you can put those in. And it includes 300 plus adventure hooks, unique magic items, game master advice, and CRs range from 1/2 all the way up to 30, which is something we love to see. Every bestiary should have that listed in their catalog description, so thank you. Encounters, I mean, all kinds of stuff. But you can see this is part of a series. There's all these other monsters books that you can check out as well. Monsters of Feyland, Monsters of the City, Monsters of the Wilderness, etc. So, and we've looked at a couple of them previously, and they're always fun. So you can see the table of contents here. Arcane Dungeons, and it lists all the different things that you might find there. Thieves Guild Dungeons, you might find things like Harmonica Stars, or Big Relief, or Ghost Rogue, Grunt, House It, Illuminous, and so on. And they're listed at the end by type and by CR, and then all those conversion tables at the end for those 4 other editions of the game. And you get that advice, and then here's some dungeon adventure hooks, like a huge dungeon is discovered underneath a busy city market. That could be interesting, like why is it there and what's going on down there. Here's some NPCs you might encounter. And then we get right into the first section of the dungeon. So this one is called Arcane Dungeons. The most unpredictable type of dungeon is the Arcane Dungeon. This place is filled with constructs, aberrations, and other bizarre creatures. Otherworldly monsters often arrive through portals and magic circles. Surprises can lurk around every corner. So it gives you a list, like a table of encounters that you can pick from, and various events like cultists hold a wizard hostage, or strange purple gas fills the dungeon. And I love all the comic book illustrations in here. And you get Brock the Brave, who's a CR5. It says the leader of 7 adventurers is an eager paladin. Brock is bold and courageous, but still rather young. He began adventuring when he was a teenager. Brock obeys the laws of the kingdom and is the epitome of a loyal companion. So, you can have him be a competitor for something in a dungeon, or maybe he's corrupted and acting against, his will, or he could be just mistaken about something, thinks that the party's a threat. But you get quests here, so maybe he needs to discover a red dragon's lair or save his farming community. Then you get the animated wizard's hat and the arcane dragon and Archmage Ignatius of Nox. So some of them are like NPCs basically, but you can reuse the stat block, give it a different name as well. Here's the Blabberblub, the Cauldron of Chaos. That looks kind of fun. A Chronomancer, Oculus, the Passager. That's cool. Let's look at that. Dungeons can start to look pretty similar at times. Adventurers who aren't paying attention might miss stealthy creatures like passengers. Passengers blend into dungeons and can easily surprise other creatures. They can alter their form to resemble any kind of passage. Incredibly patient passengers will wait for hours for any prey. These monstrosities wait for a passerby, then wrap themselves around the victim. The passenger will then begin to constrict the prey before consuming it. One clue to the presence of the monster are the remains of its victims strewn about a hallway. So basically, you think you're stepping into a doorway and you step into a passager. So that's cool. It's a CR2. And it says, in the first round of combat, the passager has advantage on attack rolls against any creature it's surprised. And it's got a constrict ability, so it can grapple, which is cool. Pillar of the Community, Spellbinding Spellbook. Statue of Limitations, some of all tiers, so some play on words in here, which I like. Terra Sphinx, which is a CR20 with some really cool artwork. It says, tired and battle-worn, an adventuring party continues to make its way through the endless dungeon. Then they come upon an impressive arch with large lion-like statue. The creature's mouth opens and roars. Terra Sphinx are found at important gateways and large dungeons. They will prevent entry to certain areas unless they decide the intruders are worthy. Terror Sphinx are interested in assisting creatures that engage in lawful, respectful conduct. These monstrosities are very dangerous, and most creatures would do well not to provoke them. Not many adventurers will ever pass through their arch without their approval. So yeah, you could have some fun with that. Maybe they have to answer a riddle, or perform a task, or demonstrate their honor in some way. And you got the Wall of 𝙁 here, CR5. It says, a fiend that inhabits expansive labyrinthine dungeons. The Wall of 𝙁 resembles a section of a stone wall with a large demonic face. At first glance, it appears to be carved into the wall, basically. It has a swallow ability after it bites, so you can basically be swallowed, and then, they have to try to escape being swallowed. Just some really fun stuff in here. I mean, so many different fun creatures and characters, all with beautiful comic book style art, and I love the premise of sorting them by the different dungeon types, because you could really have, the ones we looked at, the Passager and the one that's the stone relief in the wall, and then you've got this animated wizard's hat. I mean, all of those would make sense to be just hanging out in some arcane dungeon that's connected to maybe a sorcerer that died, or a wizard that's reclusive. Whatever your story is, because they're organized this way, you can use them that way. Or you can just say, no, I just want a couple creatures for wherever, whatever dungeon I'm populating. So it doesn't even have to be one of these 7 types of dungeons. You can just decide, I'm gonna mix it up. Maybe even randomly roll, as long as they're within the CR rating, because you've got tables in here with the CR rating. But also, don't forget, you're getting those conversion tables for those 4 other systems. So lots of value here. 123 monsters, 150 pages, 5 systems, and available in print on demand or digital. So I think you need to check it out. It's under Monsters of the Dungeon, and the link's below. Give it a click. Next, we have Professor Montclaire's Guide to the Mortuary Arts. Unravel the weave that governs the forces of life and death with new backgrounds and spells, all about necromancy. And it's a pay-what-you-want title. Suggested price of $3.79 by T.L. Haynes. It's 7 pages, and it gives you a new thematic background. Delve into the secrets of life and unlife as a mortician adept, and uncover the great mysteries of the veil that separates this world from the hereafter. So if you are part of that background, you may have access to a feat. And then there's 3 other feats in here, or maybe that includes the 1 feat. And then you get 4 new specialty spells. So I think this is a really cool thematic publication, focusing on mortuary stuff, necromancy. It can be really interesting, whether you want to use that with Ravenloft, or you just have like a dark area or a dark region, or maybe some dark event has happened that made people more leaning towards these types of darker themes, I guess you would say. So here's the Mortician Adept. Be it under the astute tutelage of Adelaide Montclaire, priests and clerics devoted to the many deities of life and death, or while studying under a master mortician, you have learned much about the mechanics and principles behind life, or behind death and undeath. So you get religion and medicine, you get tool proficiencies, alchemist tools, language of your choice, and then you get your origin, your personality trait, and then your feature is the Mortuary Initiate feat, which is described later, which gives you access to some spells, I think. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, so you get Chill Touch and False Life, protection from evil and good, as well as some other advantages and things like that. So I wanted to read the Wraithbane feat, which you have to be 4th level, and you have to have that previous feat. It says, you are a specialist when it comes to disposing of the undead. You excel in combat against the unliving and gain these benefits. Bane of the Breathless. When making an attack against an undead creature, you can give yourself advantage on the attack. If the attack hits, it deals an additional 1d8 radiant damage on hit. You can use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. And then you have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects caused by undead creatures. So that could be helpful, especially if you're going to have a campaign built around undead and other darkness. And then there's some spells. We get to see one here. It's called Reaper's Stride. It's a 3rd level conjuration. Casting time 1 action. Range is 60 feet. Instantaneous duration. You step into the narrow space between the material and ethereal planes, ready to strike like sudden death. Choose a creature within range that you can see. The forces of life and death fold to allow you passage, and you reappear in an unoccupied space within 10 feet of your target, which must make a wisdom saving throw. On a fail, the target takes 66 necrotic damage and the next attack roll against it before the end of your turn. Next turn has advantage. On a success, the target takes half damage and doesn't suffer the spell's additional effects. Additionally, you may also allow passage to one willing creature that is your size or smaller. So, interesting. You can basically travel with this spell, and while you're doing it, you're causing damage because you're kind of leveraging the spirit of another creature, it feels like, which is cool. It fits in with this whole concept of, mortuary stuff and necromancy and connection to life and undeath and all that. I mean, this is filled with good stuff, well formatted. You can even try it out for free and then come back and pay something if you use it. I definitely recommend paying something because, obviously the authors have spent time and they've paid for artwork, etc. So definitely should support all of that. And it looks to be a lot of fun to me. So look for it in the video description links. It's under Professor Montclaire's Guide to the Mortuary Arts. Give it a click. Next, we have This and That Collection from Sneak Attack Press for 5th edition, $14.99 for 104 pages. And it says, why should swords and staves get all the fun? This and That started as a series of short PDFs. Each mini book explored a piece of mundane equipment like locks or a rope or books. And for each piece of gear, they include real-world history, a fantasy spin, new magic items, new monsters, and more. Now they're collecting all those into a single volume, plus some new appendices collecting information about the spells, magic items, and monsters. So, once you combine these things, there's more of them, right? So instead of a few spells, maybe you have more, enough to have an index or something. So that's cool that buying them this way, you're going to get that sort of support. So it says this collection is packed with content for GMs and players, including 31 items, 25 new monsters, 6 new spells, 4 new traps, as well as new weapons, equipment, random tables, real-world history, and optional rules. So cool. There is a bundle down here, and I think it's for the original books, because I'm not seeing this one in that. So just be aware that the bundle, you might be interested in that. It's the same price as the collection, but I would get the collection because it looks like more topics, and it has those appendices. So just didn't want you to be confused when you see that bundle, because normally when you see a bundle at the bottom, it says containing this product, but I'm just seeing the older versions in here. I'm not seeing the existing titles. So not sure why that is, but it's fine. All right, looking in here, you can see they've broken it out by the original books, right? You've got Lock and Key, which I think we covered on this show. Rope and Chain, Secret and Cipher, Torch and Lantern, Book and Shelf, Hourglass and Sundial, Pack and Pouch, and then, of course, appendices as well. Like the spells by class and level, magic items alphabetically or by rarity, monsters by CR, all that good stuff. And I love this series because there is so much that your players could say, hey, what do I see? What's around me? And it can't always be some magnificent artifact, right? Sometimes it's got to be something that seems mundane or is mundane. And so this book is really going to dive into a lot of those things. Rope, for example, or torches or lanterns, and I think that's so cool. And even some history in here you can learn about, like warded locks, for example. It says the Romans were among several cultures that independently developed the warded lock, the lock technology that dominated the world for centuries. Warded locks contain a series of wards, obstacles of different shapes, sizes, and patterns. The proper keys have blades cut with the gaps that correspond to the wards inside the locks, allowing them to turn and open the locks, while the wrong keys hit the wards and thus cannot turn. While the basic technology remained the same for centuries, as time went on, the designs of wards and corresponding keys became increasingly complex, and the designs of locks and keys became works of art. Locksmiths added extra flourishes like hidden keyholes, false keyholes, and multiple keyholes that required all their keys to be turned at the same time. So you can see here in the image, there's a number of holes in this sort of plate that the key is in, and it's very ornate. The head of the key has some flourish to it, as well as some flourish on the plate. So you can have fun with that, but you're going to get that history, and then it talks about picking locks and how that works, and in a fantasy world, how do you apply it? And it comes up with some riddles here that could be used as like a magical ward, right? But here's some variant locks, and this one I really liked when I was reading it earlier. Hidden keyhole. While most keyholes are obvious, the keyholes of some locks are cleverly hidden within an intricate design behind a sliding panel or disguised as an inconsequential hole. Before attempting to pick this lock, the character must first find the keyhole by making a successful investigation check. The DC of the check depends on how cleverly the keyhole is hidden, typically between 10 and 20. So that could be really interesting, especially if you've got a thief, a rogue, whatever, going through and just lock picking, and then finally you get to one that's like, no, that didn't work. Well, but I used my tools and I rolled well. Well, gotta look at it. Let me know what you think, and then they got to look at it closely, and they find, oh, there's a second little keyhole here. Didn't notice it the first time, right? There can be false keyholes, maybe an obvious keyhole on the lock, complete with wards and a locking mechanism. However, it's false, and characters cannot unlock using it, even if they have the correct key. To find the true keyhole, the characters must make a successful investigation check, much like finding the hidden keyhole. So just a couple options, right? And they're going to go through, what happens with atypical technologies and handleless key and magical locks and all these things that you can encounter. And it doesn't have to be like a trap. It could just be a puzzle that you have to figure out to advance and move on. And all the characters can get involved and say, well, maybe try this or look at this. And you can have them roll different things based on what they come up with. Maybe even different skill checks, because maybe they're going to try something that isn't covered in this book. But the beauty is you're going to start looking at things in a different way with this and that, because it is this and that, not just the main object, the hero piece. In the film business, they'll say it's a hero prop if it's something that the main characters use and hold and do all that stuff with, right? So you're going to have those hero props in whatever adventure you're dealing with. So you need this and that to surround you and have all those things. And so you're going to be talking about books, shelves, hourglasses, sundials, ropes, chains. All these things are things that already, when we talk about them in the real world, have an older connotation. Ropes have been around a long time. Chains have been around a long time. Lanterns aren't used as much anymore. Hourglass isn't used much anymore. So as soon as you speak those words, you're evoking this fantasy for your players. And so I think this is going to be a really fun book for you at a great price, $14.99 for that 104 pages. So look for it in the video description links under this and that, and give it a click. Now we come to that part of the program where we give some shout outs to other books that released this week that we don't have time to take a deep dive into, but we hope you check them out on your own using the video description links. First up, we have the Aesthetics Guide to Ansalon During the War of the Lance, Kryn Space, a guide to the Dragonlance star system, so you can use this with Spelljammer or just with Dragonlance or your own homebrew. It's got monsters and adventures all connected to Kryn and Dragonlance, and of course lots of materials. $7.63 for 209 pages, 5th edition. Then we got Battle for the Oddvine, $5.99 on sale for 14 pages, 5th edition, and this includes an adventure, factions, and items for you. Then we've got The Cry from Crow's Koppel, which is filled with beautiful maps and a whole scenario for you. It's 7 pages for any system, so it's system neutral, but the best part is it's free. So you'll definitely want to make sure you're grabbing this one this week. Then we've got Into the Wild Omnibus Edition, a guide to hex crawling, world building, and high level play. It's got multiple options, so $25.95 for the PDF, or you can go softcover standard color $52.95, or hardcover standard color for $64.95, or bundles at a little bit higher prices for those. And this is for OSR, and it's a combination of a bunch of previous books with a lot of stuff to help you world build, including factions, optional rules, and reference. If you like hex crawls, if you like tables, you're going to enjoy this book, so check it out. Then we got Post-Apocalyptic 5e, $6.19 for the PDF, or $15.45 for that black and white softcover, or the same price for both. It's 49 pages, and it's focused on classes and optional rules to bring the post-apocalyptic feel to 5th edition. So you can enjoy those familiar rules with a twist. Post-apocalyptic stuff is pretty popular, so it could be pretty fun. Check it out. Then we've got Quirked Lands, Bushes, and Grasses. This is part of a series focused on quirky things that you can encounter in the fantastical landscapes out there. So you can plug and play these into your homebrew setting, give it a different fantasy feel, give you some sort of encounters. And this is only $1.99 for 40 pages of this good stuff. So that's a great price for it. And they released another one on a different topic this week. So if you like that price point and the concept, might check out their other book as well, which I'm sure you can get to from our link by just clicking on the publisher leaf pile here. All right. Then we got Rewards Greater Than Gold, a universal role-playing accessory. And as the title implies, it's system neutral. It's reference, got all sorts of ways to make the loot more interesting and connected to the story. It's only $3.95 on sale, which is 50% off, I guess. It's 24 pages, and it is system neutral. Then we got Scout Magazine number 2, or volume 2. It's $5 for 46 pages. It's for OSR. It's got classes, spells, and monsters. And then we've got Silverplate, Blight of the Green Witch, and Other Adventures. So Silverplate is that 5th edition setting focused on food that's been sort of anthropomorphized. So you get to play as like a donut or corn on the cob or a coffee cup or whatever. And so this is another adventure for that. It's $30, 244 pages. It's got other adventures actually, so it's more than one adventure. And the artwork, as usual, is stunning. Well, that is it for this episode. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave us a comment. All of that helps the algorithm and gets the video in front of more eyeballs. But you can do that as well by sharing the video on your social media, and we appreciate it when you do that. You can also support all these great creators by clicking those links in the video description and purchasing their work. And if you purchase anything after you click one of our links, you're going to help support the channel, even if it's something we didn't talk about this week. In fact, we love it when you bookmark one of those links as your link to get to Drive Through or DM's Guild, because then every time you shop, you're helping the Splinterverse channel, and we appreciate that so much. You can also check out our 7 books that we've released. They're listed in the video description, or you can go to splinterverse.com. We've got the Mithril best-selling Feywild Companion and many other fun titles to choose from. And we've got a Kickstarter coming later this year, so be sure to follow us at Splinterverse everywhere there is social media, including new places like Blue Sky and Mastodon. We're there too, so look for us at Splinterverse and give us a follow. All right, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate the support that you show us and all these fantastic creators every single week. So stay tuned for more, and until next time, happy adventuring.